Next up, taking a peek at the Sync4 media screen inside of the Ford Escape. Now, this is the smaller 8-inch screen. There is technically the option for the larger 13.2 inch instead. So if you're looking for the walkthrough on the larger screen, you can find it down in the description of the video. But this is the base screen. You're going to find in the base and the active trim levels as a default. So let's move through and I'm going to show you everything that you need to know. First thing to notice is that this one doesn't have factory navigation included in the vehicle. You do technically have to be in that larger 13.2 inch screen, but we do have the flexibility of hooking up through Android or iPhone devices if we wanted to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze on iPhones, or Google Maps inside of Android devices. So let's kind of move through and I'm going to show you how everything works. We've got our home icon along the very top side there, so top left. So if we're on any other screen, we press the phone button or the home button, I should say, in order to phone home or go back home. We've got what audio source is currently playing. So you can see right now I've got a USB device connected. So if we hop in, we could play.
Have some concentration, and if I make a mistake, it's called education.
So this thing has pretty good audio base, and this is just the basic audio system. So when we get into the larger audio system, like that 10 speaker, it sounds even better, but this is still pretty good. We have the option of going through all of our sources now. So we ended up in the audio tab. So if you're home, you could press this to go to audio, or we press here to go to audio. So very straightforward. We've got our clock. So if we want to adjust our clock settings, we can do that. We've got our data transfer. Are we connected to Wi-Fi? And then our outside temperature as well. And then if we had our climate going there as well, so you can see there, driver's side, adjust both, or we can do passenger side if we want something different, driver, passenger for dual zone. There is a dual zone button down the center stack, so if we push that, it's going to default the passenger side to whatever the driver's side is. We've got a compass, and then we can do a hot button press in order to add a phone in there on top of that. But let's move through, looking at our audio. Sources, we've got AM, FM, SiriusXM, Bluetooth audio, and then USB. So a series of different options that are available, and very straightforward to go between any of these things here. So we kind of push through. If we want to change out to FM, we've got that flexibility, and we can do direct tune this way. So if we want to, we can just type in a station, enter. We can use the tuning rocker there if we want to change to a different station instead. And then if you want to save a preset, once you've tuned to whatever station you want to, you're just going to press and hold, and that's going to save the preset in. So very straightforward there. But one unique thing is when we move into SiriusXM, we have a series of other different settings that are available now. So we can change stations this way. If we want to set up a unique profile, we've got the flexibility to do it. So we can create a unique listener if we wanted to remember all of our favorites, look at our listening history and things like that. I always recommend for preset pages, go to our maximum, so 6 preset pages. And big reason, there we go. So big reason why. So if we head back to our audio now, so if you love listening to audio, you have a series of different presets. We've got the option for up to 30 individual presets through this screen. We just have to make sure it's all done through our preset page settings there. We can also get it through basic audio settings, which I'll show you in a second. We can browse this way. So if we want to browse either for you, music, sports, things like that, we can easily adjust out. We can hop back, some smooth yas going in the background. We can see related. We can also change this way. We can pause, we're live playing. And then we've got notifications down here. So whether or not, this is a neat one. So if you love either the song or the artist, we've got the flexibility of saving that in. So every time that this song or this artist is going to play, it's going to let you know. We can also manage. So if we wanted to manage our notifications, we'd have that flexibility there too. And then if we change back to AM, FM, whatever the case may be, it's just going to make the screen a little bit more basic in comparison. But I did mention, so along our settings section there, if we go to radio, we can also adjust our preset pages and show our radio text there too if we want to. So very straightforward. But that's the basics of using audio inside of this thing. So very, very simple to use. Now there are some audio settings I did mention. So we've got our volume rocker here, tuning rocker. We've got a hot button press along the bottom in order to move between all of our different sound settings. So if we wanted to change out our tone settings, so treble, mid-range, bass, I usually recommend treble down 2, bass up 3. It usually gives pretty good audio. Moving back, we've got our balance and fade. So if you're the only one in the vehicle, make it on you, or you can kind of adjust out however you'd like to. If you've played around with it, you can't get it to recenter, just hit reset in order to be able to do that. Moving back, speed compensated volume. So as we're going faster or slower, it's automatically going to adjust the volume for us. Occupancy mode, is it strictly the driver, or do we want more of like an immersive audio experience for all seats instead? That's the basics there. Moving back home, I did mention we can either add in a phone there, or we can add in a phone down there. So let's go through the process of adding in a device. So what we're going to do on our phone here, we're going to go through and we're looking for adding in a phone.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
Ford Escape, so we're going to connect through.
Confirm that the pin displayed on sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up. Do we want to allow contacts and favorites to sync? I'm going to say don't allow for now, but we're connected.
For your safety, please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
Okay, so on the screen here, we now have 911 Assist. I always recommend turning that one on because if our phone's connected and if we're in a major accident, it's automatically going to try to dial 911 for us and connect to the operator. I know that newer iPhones do technically have that flexibility if it recognizes you're in an accident, but this is nice because if the vehicle recognizes it, it's going to dial 911 for us too. So just recommend turning that one on. We're going to hit finish. And now we also have another option for CarPlay. But before we do that, I'm just going to close through and move through a few different options here. We've got favorites, recents, keypads. We've got our Siri Assistant. Because we're connected to a phone now, if we press the Siri Assistant there, so you can see there, we've activated Siri on our phone by pressing the voice command prompt on the steering wheel. So very straightforward. We can see what's going on with our current connection, battery life, and we've also got our phone name along the very top. Now, on the phone, it's saying that we've got CarPlay available because we are wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It is unique because if we are plugged in through USB, if we wanted to charge that way instead, we could technically use CarPlay through a wired connection too, which is kind of nice. But let's say use CarPlay. We're going to enable. A few seconds in, and we are fully connected. So I love how simple it is to connect to CarPlay inside of this thing. But as you can see there, we've got Apple Maps, we've got Google Maps, we've got Waze, and we can use all of these right through the middle screen. So this thing, as you saw earlier, doesn't have factory navigation. So if we hop back out to the home screen by pressing the sync button here, launches us back to the home screen, so no factory nav, but we launch back into CarPlay and we've got Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze right through the screen here, which is fantastic. Now, one thing, Apple Maps, you can see there, you can fully adjust it right from the screen with the exception, no pinch to zoom, but we could move around. We can zoom in and out this way, change our heading modes and things like that, search for destinations, previous destinations. If we pop through, we could listen to our podcast as well if we want to. Scrolling across, we can also look at Google Maps or Waze. But one thing, we've got a tray along the side, so that's going to let us know what's going on with our phone, what map application was open last. So you can see there, we're now on Google Maps instead, and Google Maps is just trying to find the location. That is definitely not where I am. Where does it have me right now? This is outrageous. It's got me in the... Where am I? This is hilarious. I'm definitely not outside of Nigeria right now. I'm in North America, so I'm not sure why it's defaulting me there. That's kind of funny though. But we've got Google Maps, Apple Maps, and we've got Waze. And as you can see there, very, very straightforward to use. Waze is the same idea. So if we wanted to, we can zoom in and out this way rather than pinch to zoom. So we don't have pinch to zoom capabilities on anything but we don't have drag and drop capabilities on anything but our Apple Maps. We don't have pinch to zoom on any of them inside of Apple CarPlay. So we can move back home there. We've got messages, we've got audiobooks. If you want to listen to podcasts, you can go that route. You can browse, look at library, things like that. There are a series of different apps that are available. So we've got YouTube Music, Zoom, and a few others that you can use right through this screen as well. Live One is a radio app, so there are a series of different apps that are available. But you can see here that different apps will do different things. So this top one is which map application was open last. So if we change it to Waze, that's Waze as a map application. If we've opened up YouTube Music, it switches that out instead. So these essentially are hot button trays for which map application, which music application, and then which general application was open last. So you can see there, that adjusts out from there. But we've got a series of other options too. Like we've got Siri, wallpaper, driving focus. So do you want to activate driving focus so you won't get as many alerts? So there is a lot of flexibility. Now on our phone, if we go to our general settings and then we go to CarPlay, select the vehicle, we can turn CarPlay off, we can delete it from the vehicle, or we can customize it. So let's say if you're a fan of listening to your podcasts and you also want your audiobooks up there as well, you've got that flexibility. If you're never going to listen to audiobooks, you can remove it. It gets rid of it from the screen, but it does keep it saved at the very bottom here. So we could add it back in if we want to. If you've, let's say, played around with this too much and it's become a little bit of like a chaotic mess because you've done a bunch of dragging and dropping, we can reset, bring it back to our factory default screen there instead. So this is technically the home screen for Apple CarPlay. This one here, so you've got your maps, you've got searching capabilities. If your calendar had anything going on today, that would show up. And we can scroll through there to go to different subpages. I did mention if we want to jump back to the Ford home screen, we press the Ford button there in order to do it. Now, one other thing. If we jump into our settings here, we can go to our phone list, and that's going to show the currently connected phone. So we're currently connected to CarPlay, so under phone settings, we don't have many options but trashing it. But we could connect back to our phone this way if we want to, and that's going to set us back up over Bluetooth. And one neat thing I'm going to show you in a second, but if we have multiple phones connected, we can be hooked up through our phone for one, and then our audio for the other, or we can disconnect audio or our phone for both of them. So it's pretty neat from that perspective. But very straightforward, but that's how you set up an Apple iPhone inside of the Ford Escape. Next up, setting up an Android is the exact same process. So if you weren't on the screen, let's say if you were back home, a few different ways you can do it. If you didn't have a phone connected, you could just hit the phone icon there. I'm currently connected to the iPhone, so we're going to go Settings, Phone List, and then we can add a phone at the very bottom now.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
Okay, and what we're going to do is hop into the phone, and we're just waiting for Ford Escape to show up again. Perfect, there we go.
Confirm that the pin displayed on sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up, which is great. And same idea, we've got the option of going contacts and things like that.
Changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
So I just hit deny for those ones just because this is a demo vehicle. But if you hit yes, then you'd be able to access your contacts and messages and things like that. And then very similar to what we saw on the iPhone side, we've got the flexibility of wireless Android Auto. So it's connecting there. Continue setup. So we just hit continue. And 3, 2, 1. We are fully connected, and it's that simple. And as you see there, full screen, which is great. We've got a few things. So we can search for addresses this way. We can push here if we wanted to, go to different settings, so different route options and things like that. So if you had a preference of avoiding toll roads and ferries, etc., you've got that flexibility. We could do a simple drag, and we also do have pinch to zoom. Really useful. We can mute out notifications, change our display. We can also zoom in and out this way instead if we want to. Along the very bottom right, we've got what current time it is, our current data connection, and our phone battery life. Our music, so if that was playing, so technically podcast as of right now, but you saw there it changed the bottom tray once we selected that. So we could push this instead, and as you can see there, that's going to launch us back into this. We push again if we wanted to launch into our settings, etc. So we've got a few different options that are available. We've got our Google Assistant there. So if we wanted to use the Google Assistant, we've got that option. We can push there, or we can press and hold the button on the steering wheel if we wanted to be able to adjust that way or turn the assistant on that way instead. Along the very bottom here, we've got a little tray that's going to push us up to this main menu. So we've got our maps, we've got what's currently going on with our map location, so our last search destinations, and then what's going on with our audio. We can push this again, and that brings us into even more options and settings. So we can look at our phone, maps, we can customize and do a few other things. Now, this screen doesn't have as much flexibility as you saw, as well as you can see there, as what we saw on the Apple side of things. We can only use Google Maps through the screen as well. So this phone technically does have Waze installed. It's just that, I mean, if we look, we don't have Waze anywhere on the screen when we go back. So as of right now, it still doesn't have support for Waze. Unfortunately, I'm like, fingers crossed, hopefully that changes, but as of right now, it doesn't have it available as an option. But one thing, On our phone, if we were to search for Android Auto, we go to our Android Auto settings, we can look at previously connected cars, we can customize the launcher. So similar to the iPhone side, we can kind of do like a drag and drop if we wanted to. But one thing to point out is that whatever changes we make here, it's not dynamic like it was on the Apple side. We actually have to close down Android Auto and then relaunch for any changes to take into effect. But we still can sort of customize it. We've got our Google Voice detection. Do we want to turn all of these different settings on or off, etc.? So there are a series of different things that we can do through the screen. And then very similar to what we saw on the iPhone side, if we want to jump back to our home screen, we just press the forward sync button there. That launches us back to our home screen. Now I've got two phones connected. So we go to our phone list, and as of right now, we're connected to Android Auto. So let's say if we wanted to connect to our music instead, and we wanted the phone through the iPhone, we could do that. So we could toggle the phone off of our Galaxy and then on or off. So we could essentially go whichever way we want to for these settings. So either the phone or music. We can either be hooked up through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. We can't be hooked up to both at the same time. So it's essentially one or the other here, and then it's going to be one or the other across the board there as well, which is nice. If we wanted to delete phones, we just go here. We could technically toggle some settings on there too. So if we wanted to manage contacts, set ringtones and things like that, or, wrong button. We could delete, yes, phone, delete, yes. And as you can see there, both phones are now fully disconnected from the vehicle. So it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of the Ford Escape. Along the very bottom, we've got an app screen, and that's going to give us the flexibility of finding some mobile apps, but you do need to be connected over a USB. Certain ones like LiveX Live, which is a radio app, will show up there. We've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and then some basic help. Settings along the bottom. We've already seen these ones, so that's our radio presets and our pages there. And that one's dynamic, so if we were hooked up through SiriusXM, it would be a SiriusXM button there instead. We can add in a phone. There are some sound settings, which we've already seen, so treble, mid-range, bass, etc. Some basic vehicle settings. So we've got 30-minute max idle, which means that if this one's on, after 30 minutes, the vehicle's going to turn off. Rear occupant alert, a few different options there. So it's going to horn, it's going to strictly give us an alert, nothing is going to happen. Or you can do both, and whether or not a child seat's installed. So more or less to make sure that we check the back seat so that we haven't forgotten Junior. Our serial number, start stop, so we can turn the whole remote start system off completely if we want to. But if we've got remote start going, what happens? Does the vehicle determine what the cabin temperature should be, or is it based off of our last vehicle settings? Seats and steering wheel, same idea. Do we want heated seats and steering wheel coming on automatically, or is it just not going to happen? How long does the remote start last for? So 5, 10, or 15 minutes? And that's when we remote start through the key fob. Options for wipers, so courtesy wipe. So when we've got our windshield wipers going, it's going to go through the full wipe cycle, and then with courtesy wipe, it's going to go one more time to get rid of any excess liquid that might be on the windshield. We can turn our powered liftgate off if we want to, so if we just want to lift it up manually, we've got that flexibility. Vehicle lighting, so auto high beams. So if our high beams are turned on, vehicle senses somebody's oncoming, it's going to lower the high beams for us, and then as we pass, it's going to bring them right back up again. Lamp delay, when we go to lock the vehicle, do the lamps stay on for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 120 seconds, or do they just go off completely? And from there, door keypad code. So this one here, we do have a 5-digit factory number, and we can enter in our own unique one on top of that. That's the basics for vehicle settings. Our clock, I did mention, we can get to the clock settings by pushing the clock along the top, or just going through the setting here. So do we want to change hours, minutes, etc.? Do we want to have the vehicle determine what the time is based off of our GPS location? And then do we want to have that military time instead, so that 24-hour mode? Series of general settings, so do we want to go English, Spanish, or French? Celsius or Fahrenheit, kilometers, liters per 100, miles per gallon, etc. Do we want to change out our tire pressure units? The beeping that we get here, if that drives you nuts, you could turn it off. Some basic about, we can reset, so whether that's just our Ford Pass or do a complete factory reset instead. So if this screen's giving you any issues, just do a factory reset to bring it back to our factory defaults. Display, as big and as bright as this display is, if you find it to be a bit too much, we can turn the whole system off. Button press to bring it back on, or we can go to a calming screen instead. Same idea, button press to bring it back. We can adjust the brightness here if we want. And we've also got modes. So this technically is the daytime mode, but we can lock out the daytime or the nighttime permanently if we want to. Auto mode means it's going to flip daytime, nighttime, just depending on how bright it is outside. But I mean, look at that blue. Look at how nice that looks. I'd personally just keep it in the blue setting the whole time, but that's going to be a matter of personal preference. And back we go, back again. Connectivity. So connected vehicle features, Bluetooth, things like that. So we do have a series of different connected options. Some of these things I'd recommend turning off, like vehicle analytics, share vehicle data, etc. Personal matter of preference. Bluetooth, we can turn Bluetooth off, so if we don't want to connect over a Bluetooth at all. And this is where we go to change our vehicle name. So if you want to change it to Mary's Ride, Bob's Escape, whatever the case may be, that's where we're going to make it happen. So very straightforward. So what we do is we go to settings, connectivity, Bluetooth, vehicle name, in order to be able to adjust the name up that way instead. Back again, we've got wireless app projection and then our Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi networks, I definitely recommend connecting to Wi-Fi at home. Big reason why is because it's automatically going to do software updates for us. So I just recommend auto software updates, and then from there we can schedule when it happens. And like these updates, sometimes they take a while. Like it might take an hour, 3 hours, 4 hours, depending on the size of the file and your internet connection. So I always just recommend update these. So essentially you want to do it later on at night. Custom schedule if you want to. But very useful to make sure your vehicle's up to date. You do have the option for a vehicle hotspot. You can toggle it off. You do need a data-only plan through some cell phone providers in order to be able to get that system activated. We can see what's going on with our data usage. We can adjust our settings. So if we wanted to change the network name, the password, we could do that. We can edit all those settings out this way if we want to. Moving back, series of different options for managing devices. So if you wanted to block certain devices from connecting, we'd have that flexibility. Software updates, 911 assist, I did mention that one earlier. So you do need to have a phone connected for the vehicle to dial 911 in case of a serious accident. Having said that, if your phone has been connected before and you are in a serious accident, it's going to try to reconnect first in order to call 911 for us. But I always just recommend keep that setting turned on. And then our valet mode, we enter in a 4-digit number and it's going to lock out most of the screen. So watch this. Use something harder than 0000, but when we do that, the screen is locked out. So you can't do anything again until you re-enter that 4-digit number, and it just unlocks the screen for us. So brilliant safety settings from that perspective. Series of other features there. So we've got selectable drive modes, 4 different modes that are available, and each mode is going to do something different. Like, do we want to maximize fuel economy? Do we want a sportier performance? Is it snowy outside? Or do we just want a normal casual drive instead? Series of driver assistance settings. So there are a few big ones there. So do we want to turn our traction control system on or off? Lane keeping is useful. So there are 3 different modes. So the alert means that if we start to veer over into another lane without signaling, we're going to get a little bit of a steering wheel shake. The aid is actually going to nudge us back into our lane, and the alert and the aid will do a little bit of both. So it'll shake the steering wheel and it's going to nudge us back into our lane again. Moving back, and that's the intensity of the steering wheel shake. So do we want a high, normal, or a low shake? And honestly, that one feels like you're running over rumbled pavement. So it is a useful one just in case you're driving later on at night. Pre-collision assist. So if the vehicle recognizes a potential collision, do we want it to automatically brake for us? And then it's the alert sensitivity there. Our blind spot system. So if anybody's into the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, it's going to highlight orange in our side view mirrors to let us know. The parking aid, when we're in reverse. So we've got our parking aid there. So our reverse sensors. So whether or not that one shows up or not, that's going to be a matter of preference. So if we turn the parking aid off, you can see there that car has disappeared. So that means that as we back up, we just won't get the beeping. So if that beeping drives you nuts, we could technically turn it off. Cross traffic alert. If somebody's coming perpendicular, so from the left or the right side, the vehicle is going to let us know, and then it could actively brake for us too if it recognizes a potential collision. And we've got our driver alert. So if we start to veer over too many times without signaling, eventually it's going to tell us that we should probably take a break. And then there's also a digital owner's manual. So if you're getting some weird messages through the cluster screen and you have no idea what they mean, you do have the flexibility of going through this screen. You've got visual searches and a few other things in order to go through and figure out what different things are. But I mean, if this video didn't show you everything that you need to know, you could at least dive through that owner's manual to kind of refine a few small things if you need it. I know that's a lot of information, but that's everything you need to know about the smaller Sync4 media screen inside of the Ford Escape.